Hello, everyone, and welcome to Plate Stack Chat. Welcome to the chat. There's already some interesting questions there about my height. We'll address that later. My name is Jason, and I find some wonderful guests. I bring them on for a chat. Now, I think this is the first time I've done the show on a Sunday, but when the guests are this good, you move things around, don't you? So let's get them out now. So first up, we have a former CrossFit Games athlete having competed on a team in 2023. This year, however, she was flying solo, and we saw her go up against some fierce competition at the North American East semi-final, the Syndicate Crown. Since then, if you follow her Instagram, you'll see that she is on a mission to get ridiculously strong, as when she isn't throwing around a heavy barbell, well, she's squatting it, planning something big for 2025. But before that, let's have her here. It is the lovely Nicki Torreggiani. I think Torreggiani.
Last name, yeah.
Yeah, close enough.
Yeah. Hi, how are you?
I am very well, thank you. I'm going to go out on a limb and say I can't remember how tall Savan is. If someone lets me know in the chat how tall Savan is, when we get back to this, I will let you know how tall I am. And I'll do some maths on that as well. But joining Nicki and myself and these interesting questions in the chat, we have a teen athlete that has somehow surrounded herself with some of the best names in the sport of CrossFit, and that is clearly paying off, as in a few days she will be competing in the teen division of the CrossFit Games at the Pit Teen Throwdown. So we thought before she becomes too famous to come on the show, we better grab her now. Please welcome future superstar Brooklynn Sittner.
What's up?
Well, sorry, Savan is 5'4", some are saying 5'5". Okay, I'm going to just do a little bit of math. So, guys, how are you both doing? Your training looks insane for both of you at the moment.
Yeah, doing good. Brooklyn, I just have to say, I have followed you on Instagram, like, before I started CrossFit. So, this is, like, for me.
That's crazy. I always, forget, almost how long I've actually been doing, just because I love it so much, but it's, crazy to, think how long I've actually been doing CrossFit.
Yeah. Oh, someone said, is Nicki a teen?
Am I a teen?
Yeah.
Oh, that is such a compliment. Thank you. I am 27 years old.
I feel really old on this show today. So I am 5'5", everybody that is asking how tall. So maybe I'm the same as, I think I'm the, well, Augusta says Savan is 5'5", Heidi says he's 5'4", and Chris says he's 4. So, no, okay, very good. Let's ignore all of that for now. Brooklyn, you are soon to go to the Pit Teen Throwdown.
Yep. Yeah.
Excited?
CrossFit Games. We leave tomorrow to drive to Kalamazoo, Michigan. I'm beyond excited. Last night, I was packing my suitcase and I was losing my mind. I was I'm literally packing to go to the games right now.
How long a drive is that for you?
It's 20 hours, but we drive everywhere all the time, anytime I compete or anytime we travel or anything. So it's not much for us actually.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy how much you compete, and sort of the people that I've seen you kind of just casually hanging around with is I mean, it is really a who's who of some of the biggest names in the sport.
I've definitely been blessed to surround myself and call some elite athletes friends, and it's a really cool experience.
How many years have you been competing for?
So since I could do the first year of the teens division, so 14, this was my last season in the teens division, so 4th season. And then I wasn't I've been doing CrossFit since I was 7, but competitively, just the past 3 years, that's been my only goal is to make the games.
Yeah, because you're right. I was sort of, as always, I do a tiny bit of research just for the intro. That's sort of and then we stop. And it's interesting because so Nicki, you've been to the games on a team, but that was your 2nd year doing the Open.
Yeah.
And then I look up, Brooklyn, you're your first year now going to the games as a teen, and you're well, she's a teen, so obviously she's not been doing CrossFit that long. And then you've got this massive Open history as well, and you're oh, that's interesting. So she's been doing it longer than you. It's sort of this weird kind of twist on what we'd normally see.
Yeah, and the craziest thing is when I started CrossFit, there was no teens division, so I was man, I can't do the Open until I'm 18. And then they came out with the teens division. I was oh, I only have to wait 6 years now instead of 10.
Yeah.
But
I
it's
mean,
been an experience.
it is crazy that. So how did you first get into it then? Was it through your dad?
Yeah, I was through my dad. A friend just brought him into the CrossFit gym. I mean, I grew up around all kinds of gyms. He played semi-professional rugby. He fought MMA. He just was always in the fitness lifestyle. So I always grew up in a gym. And then I kind of just followed him around everywhere and followed him into the CrossFit gym and found the thing that I want to do. And it was like a crazy feeling just walking into a gym and feeling like I knew I wanted to be there when I was like so young. But
Yeah.
Were there any when your age going in there, or?
no, it's so weird to say, and I don't like mean anything by it, but I feel like I'm like one of the OG CrossFit kids. Like, there was no CrossFit Kids class. There was like, it was actually funny because I'm so grateful for the owner of the gym. He just let me, he knew I wanted to train. He let me on the floor, but then we would travel and they'd be like, you can't be on the floor like you're a kid. Like, and then I just wouldn't understand because I was like, I train back home all the time. And then CrossFit Kids like started getting more relevant and all that stuff, but I never really went through that phase. So I was like, I just want to do the big dog class.
So is it strange for you then being like one of the, because I think you're right, like you are one, if you predate, you were saying like you thought you were going to have to wait to be able to do the open because when you were, and I imagine you were doing the open, you just couldn't sort of report your score, right? So you've kind of been one of those OG kids, and yet you've had to watch others go and compete at the teen competitions, and you haven't been able to kind of join them despite the fact that you maybe had been doing it longer. How's that been?
Not a great feeling, honestly, especially just like knowing my capabilities. And CrossFit's a very interesting sport, and like Nicki would know, like the games is very different from semis, and quarters is very different from semis, like completely different playing like ball fields. And it's been hard because like, not necessarily that I was good enough to be there, but I know my capabilities, and I knew I wouldn't have taken last, or I would have been able to complete events at the game. So I always like looked at it as like other people living my dreams. It's definitely been a fuel source, but it's good for you. It's good to not be jealous, but see what you want and see what others have and work harder.
Yeah. Well, they say CrossFit's all about suffering, right? So it's just a different form of suffering, I guess, at this point. Nicki, you've had like the opposite experience, really. You've sort of just appeared and suddenly, one year you do the open, next year you do the open, and you go to the games on the team. This year you went individual, but you went Syndicate Crown. So, I mean, that was probably a pretty, surreal experience, I guess, all of that.
Yeah, it was surreal. I started with Olympic weightlifting back in 2014, and I competed in that for years. And I told myself I would never do CrossFit. I was like one of those people who didn't understand judging from the outside. And then I started to date my boyfriend, who's also my current coach, and him and his best friend Will all the time would be like, we're going to get you to do a workout. I was so loyal to like my coach, who also was against CrossFit. It's like, there's no way this is happening. And then the pandemic happened. Like my coach kind of went remote, and it just wasn't the same. And I was like, all right, if I'm doing this, like, I'm not just going to be like a class goer. Like, if I'm switching sports, I have to make it my goal to go all the way. So I started in 2021 after I did USAW Nationals, and I've been on pursuit of the games ever since.
Yeah. So I imagine you had sort of a friendship circle within, because like CrossFit has a very nice community. It's very unique in some areas, but also when you start to look into other sports, they all kind of have their communities, right? So I would assume that you had a community that were probably felt very similar to you about CrossFit, right? So probably the friends that you would see at the gym also were like, yeah, weightlifting is number one. Don't do that silly CrossFit thing. Are you still like, have you converted them? Have they, I don't know, just excommunicated you? What's the situation with that?
Hoping my ex-coach doesn't see this. I'm sure someone's going to send it to him. But I was...
Well, I'll clip it. Just tell me who it is, and I'll send it.
So I watched other athletes who like left the gym to go to CrossFit, or even like dated a CrossFitter, I watched how he reacted to that, and I was so fearful. So when I stopped training with him, I had like a weird intermission where I trained with another coach online. And then I started CrossFit, and I was like, for years, I was like, I can't even talk to him. I can't text him. He probably hates me. Like all these stories in my head. I, weirdly enough, like 3 days ago, just shot him a text saying, hey, I miss you, because it's been 3 years and I feel like I'm a little past that now. But I haven't talked to anyone at my weightlifting gym since, but we still support each other on Instagram, like liking each other's posts and whatnot.
Wow, you really closed the door on all of them. He's like, sorry, guys. Actually, but this has reminded me of a question I want to ask you, Brooklyn, because I had a couple of teen athletes from the UK that are going to be competing against you. One of them, another one I think is in the other division, and one is a guy, so you'll be fine. You don't need to worry about him. But we were talking about how, like, what they, because obviously as well for them, they're going to America to do this, like from England to America. It's a big thing. And I was asking sort of at school, like, what did their kind of classmates think about all of this? Did they know anything? And pretty much across the board, they said the only thing any of their schoolmates knew about CrossFit was butterfly pull-ups. Like, you don't do real pull-ups. That was about it. And I kind of wondered, obviously it's been in America a lot longer. So I just sort of wondered what, like, people that you know of your age, kind of how they have perceived, particularly what, I guess even when you started, like initially when you were one of the OG and up till now, like people that you know similar age to you or kind of that you associate with, what's their sort of viewpoint on CrossFit, on what you're on, you know, this crazy thing you're doing with your life?
Yeah. So I'm homeschooled, so I don't have to deal with a whole lot of classmates and just finishing up some tests to graduate and stuff. But I would say my circle of friends is very small because a lot of kids don't understand what I do. But I've been blessed enough to have, like, my best friend Kendall. Like, it's so amazing, like, how she is just okay with everything I do. She's like, understands that I need to train and then we can hang out, or understands that I have important things to do. And I think it is hard for some people to understand, but I think it's just because they don't understand the work it takes or understand the sacrifice it takes. And I don't think they mean anything by it, but I think it's not perceived badly. It's just perceived in a way that people don't understand sometimes.
Okay. That weird thing you do. Like, why does she do this? Why doesn't she just want to eat pizza all the time like the rest of us?
All day, every day.
Yeah.
It takes forever.
Yeah. I did wonder, so it's interesting that you're homeschooled. That was sort of a thing I did wonder about because of how much you're traveling and how you're getting to go to all these places. I was thinking that's, you know, because I have 2 kids and we have this constant discussion, like, about how do we, you know, because in England now, if you take them out during term time, you get a fine. So like if you want to go on holiday, so, you know, as soon as like the holidays, so the you know, vacation time for you Americans come around, prices of everything shoot up. So what people are doing is they'll like take their kids out during the term to go on holiday, get a fine, and it's still cheaper.
So who's fining you?
The government and the schools. I think the government do it on behalf of the schools. And the worst thing is that they fine you per parent, per child. So like I have 2 kids, and so I would get fined for both of them, and my wife would get fined for both of them.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
That's insane.
So we often have the discussion of, could we homeschool? It would kind of be the dream. It just doesn't work too well with work. That's the problem at the moment. But don't worry, I'm working on it, Brooke. Don't worry, we'll be there one day. Anyway, yeah, just a side point. Just got distracted by that. So when you get like an opportunity, I mean, obviously you've gone to other comps, but the games, kind of the best of the best of people your age that have probably got similar experiences to you, like, how much are you looking forward to kind of the association you get there as well? So obviously the competition is one thing, but like, have you had this opportunity to kind of be as surrounded by those like peers that are the same age as you, that have gone through the same thing, that are, you know, are kind of working towards the same goals?
I wouldn't say as much as like kids my age. I've always connected with older people my whole life. Not that I am not friends with kids my age, but I've just always been that one that wanted to have the conversation with the adults, then go play with the kids. But I think, not that I'm like super old or super young, but like I think just being around CrossFit in general, like Alex Kazan is a really great example of someone who I just connect with. I think it's less of an age thing. It's more just I connect with her and she knows what I go through and I know what she goes through. So it's almost like a connection because we know like the things we're chasing. I haven't been in a room with a lot of teens, and it's kind of going to be different for me at the games because it'd be different if it was like an off-season training camp where you could like maybe get to know people, but I kind of keep to myself a little bit when I compete. So I'm not really sure how that'll go.
You've got that fire inside you. Like, I'm not going to talk to them. They're my competition.
Yeah.
You can only talk to those that are in the age group below you, but that are in the age. So are you? How old are you, Brooklyn? Are you in the
17.
first?
So
you're
I'm
in
in the 16 to 17.
Yeah. So this is your last year that you can compete as a teen. Oh, okay, that's fine. Then you can talk to anyone in the age group below you because when they age up, you're gone. So you can be friends to them. You can chat to any of the guys that are there. That's all fine. But those in your age group, just no way. That's it. Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting because talking of Alex, when I was speaking with Alex Kazan about her experience at the games last year, and she sort of could almost pinpoint how there was a shift at the beginning when you're all there to have fun, and then as she's climbing up the table, the kind of higher you get up that leaderboard, the colder it becomes, and sort of suddenly people aren't talking to you as much in the corral, and now you're their direct competition, right? You're potentially costing them a lot of money by finishing ahead of them here or there, or a place on the podium or whatever it may be. So it's interesting that you're sort of already going in with, right, kill or be killed, don't talk to them. What was your experience like at the Crown, Nicki? Was everybody as serious, or were you all just there for a good time?
Not everyone's serious. I was actually surprised. It's so interesting to see at these competitions, like how everyone acts during like the corral. I feel like it was more friendly than I expected. But there were definitely times where I wanted to be serious. Like someone would talk to me and I don't want to be like just a dick. So I'd respond, but in my head, I'm like, ugh, I want to be quiet right now because I'm trying to stay focused. But everyone has like their own way of kind of handling that pressure right before going out. So I remember at semifinals last year, there was one team next to us that was just like joking, obnoxiously being loud. You could just feel like the attitude in everyone. Like that was a different experience. For some reason, team semifinals versus Indy, teams seemed way more like cutthroat.
Really?
My experience, yeah.
Oh, see, I would have thought it was the other way around, but
yeah.
What do I know? But I also wonder for you, do you think your background in weightlifting comes into play there? Because I know, like, when it comes to a weightlifting meet, you've kind of got that, oh, I'm going to go up a few pounds or a few kilos or whatever it may be, just to like force them back out onto the bar. There's a lot of that kind of, the corral is less waiting for your term and for your time, and it's more sort of, there's still strategy even there. You're already playing the game even while you're waiting, because you're sort of like, oh, they failed that lift, I might push them straight back out again to do another lift and not give them as much rest, and I'll go up. I watched when we were at Sid, which competition was it? UK Champs. At the same time, they had like the English weightlifting championships. It's like in the same facility. So I went down and watched that, and it was just watching the like gamesmanship between some of the athletes as they're sort of changing the weights they're going to start on. So I'm wondering if you've pulled some of that over into CrossFit, where you're like, no, we need to be. This isn't time to mess about. It's 3, 2, 1, go. Even before that, I need to be thinking how I'm going to take them down. So interesting.
Yeah, actually, so when I was competing in weightlifting, my coach took care of like the logistics. He was the one watching the person perform on the platform, changing the weights, playing that game of like, all right, we want an extra 2-minute rest. Let's increase by 1 kilo. My job was just to like stay quiet, stay inward, just kind of mentally prepare, but very, very different from CrossFit. Like there is no talking to your competitor in weightlifting. Even in training, even like training in the same hall as people, if someone was to talk to me, my coach would be like, tell them to shut up. Like tell them you're focusing, do not talk to me. Like it was just so strict, so serious. And then getting into CrossFit where even like your competitors are cheering you on at points, it's like such a different environment. I mean, and I don't prefer one or the other, but I definitely find in CrossFit, I do have my moments of like, I'm serious and I need this quietness because like I'm ready to attack. Brooklyn, you competed in Olympic weightlifting too, right?
Yeah, I did. I did it mainly because I couldn't compete in CrossFit. So like I actually won in 2020, I think. Yeah, because it was the year that we didn't get to go to Atlanta. It was online, but I won the national championship for 13 under. So, but it was crazy because it was during COVID or anything. So we were all like, all my family was there and it was on a screen. So it was like really cool that they got to experience that. But I did compete in Olympic weightlifting a little bit. I did like a powerlifting meet one time. Just little things that I could do before I could try to be a CrossFitter.
That's awesome.
Wow, you should have been like chomping at the bit to compete. You're just this
Yeah,
must be.
I love competing.
Yeah, I think when people are like, "Oh, it's always been my dream to like go to the CrossFit Games," and I finally made it, I'm just gonna always be like, I don't know if I agree. I think Brooklyn really, really wanted to go. She was doing anything she could to compete because she wasn't allowed. So that's like another level. I am interested to see like your trajectory from here, like where you go, because yeah, next year that's it. You got to start making a run to go against the big girls, right?
The big dogs. Yeah.
Interesting. Who you've befriended now, but next year, I guess you're not talking to them anymore. Alex phones you, just hang up. No way. Sorry.
It's mainly just like, I think it's just the way I focus or anything. So like, of course, like during check-in, I'm gonna say hi to people I know, and people come up to me. Like similar to what Nicki said, like I do have a couple of the girls that said they've been following me forever and that they're excited to meet me. So like check in, it's hugs and high fives and everything, but I definitely don't mean anything by it. But when it's time for me to compete, I think I get like so like focused on what I need to do that I almost like block anything out. And it's not that I'm like trying to, it's just the way that I'm wired, I feel like.
Yeah. I think you have to be, though, to a degree anyway. And I think I actually think we see more of that now within CrossFit. And maybe in the past, it was a little bit more kind of open and people were more friendly, even at go time. When I think as it's gotten more, more professional and harder, I guess, and even harder to break in, you see that you sort of have to have more and more of that drive to get through it. But I mean, you mentioned you're like people following you on social media. You've got like a massive following on Instagram and stuff. Like that's crazy. So
yeah, I'm pretty sure someone said, like, I was trying to remember before we get on here how I came across you. I don't know, because back in the day, like, I don't know if algorithm was even a thing. I feel like someone sent me your page or a video of you that went viral and tagged you and was like, this is going to be your future daughter one day.
Yeah, there was a couple things that kind of like launched. So CrossFit Games reposted me when I like did this like muscle up challenge that Katrin did. And ring muscle ups, technically, like I'm not famous. It's not like I'm like known worldwide, but we always say like muscle ups is what made me famous because I got my first ring muscle up when I was 7. So everyone was like, that's crazy. And just there was nothing really like that on Instagram. And so it was actually funny because during semifinals there was a ring muscle up workout, and but I was like, you have to capitalize on this workout. Like this movement made you famous. You have to capitalize on this workout. But I honestly don't even know how the whole Instagram thing started. Me and my dad were just like, this is pretty cool. Like we should throw this stuff on there. And here we are.
Here you are. Yeah. Yeah. You'll be like, so can you remember like a time before you could do ring muscle ups really?
Yeah, because I every day for like 6 months at the gym, I would just go over to the rings and like try for hours. And it was funny because the person who owned the gym before my dad owns the gym that I train at, it's like been the same gym, just evolved through different owners. And he was like, you have to do this many pull-ups before you can do a ring muscle. I was like, I don't want to do pull-ups. All I want to do is ring muscle up. I'll just come over here and try to get myself over the rings and stuff. So I remember just like wanting to get it so bad, mainly. That's like the main thing I remember.
Yeah. Because it's funny when you're young and it is, feel like it is easier to get those skills when you're younger as well. And like, I mean, it's like we were, again, going back to UK champs, they had like the monkey bars were part of the competition, right? And people having to do that. And it was so funny watching the athlete, like these are great athletes and they are like looking at the bars and they're really like having a little go and they're quite nervous and they're sort of, oh, this is a bit like it's unusual. And I'm thinking my kids do these all the time, like in the park. And I can do them because I do them with my kids. Like it's sort of one of those things. But if you just haven't done it and it's been years and years and years that you've not done it, suddenly it's like a challenge again. And I remember when I started doing CrossFit and, you know, I could do pull-ups. I know somebody was asking, like, oh, how do you, you know, like, how did you get your first pull-up? And like, they were trying to get pull-ups. And I was just sort of like, honestly, I don't remember a time when I couldn't do them because I could do them as a kid and just all my life, if there was a bar, just check I still got them kind of thing. And just kept that going for years. So it's like, oh, you just do them, right? I don't know how you do them. And I guess it's not quite the same for you because clearly you had an objective and you just went and decided to do it.
Same thing for like just upside down for like a handstand hold, or, you know, like I remember always like just doing that. Now teaching classes or even like clients who are, you know, in their 40s and older who've never done it before and they're so afraid of like, oh, I've never experienced like not being able to do this, so I can't, like, I don't know what that fear is like.
Yeah.
How are the gymnastics for you then, Nicki? If you came in from a background of, you know, obviously no fear for the barbell, but like, was it hard for you to kind of get into the gymnastics, or had you got a background sort of playing around with that sort of stuff anyway?
So, I don't have a gymnastics background. It's like a running story in my friend group. When I was in college, I joined like a gymnastics club for a day and I practiced like getting a front tuck for 2 hours straight and tore ligaments, like ankle high sprain, was out for the whole semester because I finally landed it and then like rolled off the mat. Like celebrating, like I jumped up, I'm like screaming and I just like came down on my ankle.
Did you repost a video of that recently? Yeah. Okay. I remember seeing that.
Yeah, so no background in gymnastics. However, I've always had a interest. Like I've always wanted to do gymnastics, and I feel like starting CrossFit, I'm like living my childhood dream. So it's just something I took easily to. Like I, working on the ring muscle up skill, for example, my boyfriend would teach me like drills going into it, and then the first time I jumped up onto the rings, I made my first ring muscle up. So like I made a ring muscle up before I failed a ring muscle up. But that being said, when it comes to intensity and volume, changes the whole thing. I'm like definitely still more on the novice side of that, and been working on it.
Okay, so is that sort of the main thing you're working on these days? Is, but you say that I see you lifting so much. All your videos are you lifting at the moment?
Yeah, it's honestly I post like the highlights.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
I've been hitting some heavy lifts, so I've been posting all of those. I don't really post as much of everything else, but I'm working on everything. Like there's nothing that we really don't touch on.
Yeah. Well, I think we're all working on everything. Let me just address a few comments quickly. Jonathan Ortega, hello. Jake was talking about not understanding CrossFit. I think he said, I don't understand the yoga and disc golf, but I know people like it. So that was when people not understanding about you doing CrossFit. This was an interesting comment. It's actually quite scary how much Nicki looks like my wife. Is she sure she's Italian and not Greek? Well, I don't know. I mean, the name kind of thinks. This was, has Brooklyn played any sports outside of CrossFit or Ollie lifting?
No, I did gymnastics for a little bit growing up, but it was simultaneously at the same time as CrossFit. So people have been like, "Oh, she has a gymnastics background," but I kind of really don't. And then like I was on the competitive team and all that stuff. And then I just decided that I liked CrossFit better. But like Nicki said, it was funny. Like she feels like she's like living out her dream of like doing gymnastics with CrossFit. And that was exactly how I felt because bars was always my favorite anyway. So I was like, I always liked the lifting side of things, but gymnastics has always had my heart. So I haven't played any other sports. I love like playing sports in general, but not like I never like played on any teams or anything.
Yeah. So you're like play sport if you are in a field with some friends and they're like
Yeah.
throwing a ball around, kicking a ball around, hitting a ball with a
Yeah,
bat or
I
whatever,
also-
you'll be like, let's get involved, but you're not.
Yeah, I also grew up with all boy cousins, so
Right.
there was a lot of football in the backyard and sports going on. So I think that's kind of how I just always enjoyed playing it.
Yeah. Also quite liked this comment from Jake. I don't want to do pull-ups. I just want to do a muscle up. Is Brooklyn a 29-year-old man? So that's no, but it worked for her. It worked for her. And you can do pull-ups now as well, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, of course. So
just a couple.
I mean, that would be funny if you'd got like made it now to the games and you're like, oh, sorry, I can only do muscle ups. Can't do a pull-up. No. Okay. So I kind of want to ask you something, but I also feel terrible putting pressure on her. She does jujitsu. Brooklyn, how are you commenting? You are commenting. This is your name here.
Yeah, that's probably my dad watching this actually right now.
Yeah. So you also do jujitsu, we've discovered.
Yeah, so just for fun, my uncle owns a MMA gym, so I go in there, and I also another gym that I grew up in because I just always followed my dad around, and when he fought MMA, I kind of just grew up in that gym too. So
Right.
How
Okay.
often do you do that?
I was doing it quite a bit before the season started, actually, and then I was just like, "This is my last year in the teens division. Top 30 go. There's absolutely no reason I can't make the games this year. Like, I just want to focus everything because we were talking about maybe going and doing a comp or something for fun. But I mean, I don't do it all that much, but it's fun to go in there and just mess around a little bit sometimes.
Yeah. Did you take a year off? 'Cause I think I was looking at your like open scores and that. Like there was a year because you finished 12th in semi-finals one year, right? And then
Yeah. So in 2022, I missed the games by 10 points.
yeah.
And then I didn't take a year off, definitely not. But I didn't make semis the next year.
Right. I should have done more research. I was just looking for stuff for the intro, so I didn't do too deep a dive. But I was like, oh, I just saw the first one. I was like, oh man, she was close. And then
Yeah.
and then I saw that you're there this year, so I was like, oh, who cares? She's made it. That's fine. Obviously, there's a lot of discourse around CrossFit and the games at the moment, and like what they're doing. Has that at all sort of? I don't want to say soured the experience that like you're now going to the teen games, but I mean, is that something you're thinking about at all, or have you been able to just kind of be like, it's being, it's being done by Pit and Boz, and it's sort of its own thing? I'm just curious. I don't want to
No.
put you in a position where you have to say anything that then gets ripped apart on social media.
Oh, no. With social media, it's really unfortunate that people's opinions do get ripped apart. But the one thing I will say is, this might sound bad or whatever, but I'm always going to say how I feel and be honest. I'm not going to come on here and I'm a strong believer in God. So I think that with missing in the past years and then this being the year that they just happened to separate it and that unfortunate situation happened to happen, I think it's almost like it's making my experience almost better because that would have been my first year at the games. And if we were with them, it would have been really sad and unfortunate. So it almost makes it like a little bit better just because you're not in that unfortunate environment. So I haven't really thought about it all that much just because I feel like it's a separate thing almost.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it would be, again, not interesting. It's not the right word, but if it had been like any other year and all the teams were there competing, because if you see the effect it had on, the games athletes that were there, you can only imagine like, how does that affect these teen athletes that maybe this is, the first time they've been on this kind of stage, on this big competition, and all of this is happening and there's all this discourse around it and nobody knows what's going on. So it could have been a really, like traumatic experience for all of them as well going ahead. So maybe it's,
I definitely felt bad for all the athletes and it's really unfortunate, but the rookies especially, I was like, it's so sad because obviously you made it to the games for the first time. Like that's going to be one of the most amazing experiences of your life. Like, you're supposed to be happy and enjoy it. And I felt bad for everybody, but the rookies like really like hit me.
Yeah. Because then, it's like spirals on them as well, because it's almost like they're not allowed to feel bad about that.
Yeah.
But like, you're absolutely right. It's like all this hard work, all the time, effort, energy, money, everything that's gone in to get you to the games. You're there. This happens. And if for a moment you start thinking, oh, it's just my luck that the year I go, this would happen. It's like, oh, you're not allowed to feel bad for you, because, it was worse for that. And it's like, then you start feeling bad about feeling bad.
Mm-hmm.
And it sort of spirals on that way. So, no, it's nice that, I'm happy that you can go and you can enjoy what you've got, and it is sort of its own thing. It's to the side where, we complained about that quite a bit when it was first announced. People weren't really happy about masters and teens being sort of shipped off to different places. But at this point, it seems like it's a good thing. So that's nice for you, and for also the master athletes competing.
I like that it's separate too. I know that that's been a controversy since it's happened, for the simple fact that like there's already so many hours of athletes competing, that I feel like now people will actually watch like adapted and teens and masters, because it separates them. So it's not like you're trying to watch everything throughout the week and just get, tired of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard just to follow, like if you're just following the individual and the teams, like that's already, it's so much over a short period of time. And like, if you've got a life at the same time and you're like, oh, but I've, like my kids, I can't just say, look, sorry, it's the next 4 days, forget it, because I'm just following CrossFit. I mean, I do, but I have to balance that. But there, if you add like teens, or it's like, last year where, oh, here's the masters competition, and you're sort of like these tiny little people running on the screen somewhere, and you think, oh, that's not really fair. So I do like the idea that teens and masters are going to really get a chance to be highlighted, particularly if you've got friends and family that want to tune in, particularly to see you. They're going to get to do that. So that's nice. Yeah. Okay. Oh, we've got athletes at teens and masters. Who do we watch, Jason? Oh, you're asking me. Well, obviously Brooklyn. Got to say that. Got athletes at teens and masters. Who do we watch, Jason? Kelly Friel will be at one of the masters. She's obviously going for a returning title defense. She's won the last 3, so that would be good. So she was like interesting talking to her, because she wanted to go this year because of the change, because she kind of felt like if she didn't go, that wasn't really good, like a good sign supporting that. And then oh wow, who have you got then? Your box. All right, well, you tell me, Jake. Don't ask a question, there's a question mark at the end. Jake, who should we be watching from your box? Okay, here we are. Belinda, 16 to 17. No, we're not allowed to watch her. She's competing against Brooklyn. Sorry, Jake. Karen, 65 plus. Yes, we'll pay attention to her then. That's fine. I'm trying to think of which teens are not in your division, Brooklyn, at this point. Pierce is going. He's fine. I think Connor didn't come on the show when I had the athletes from the academy program, because he hadn't been invited at that point, but then I think he got a backfill, so he's going to be there as well, Connor Kemp. So there's lots of great athletes that will be competing, or even better, look for people you don't know. That's what I love about, like, that's what I loved about semi-finals this year. I picked up loads of new athletes that I didn't know, and I was like, oh, they're really cool. I like them, or I like their attitude. So so just watch it and fall in love with future stars, even though you don't know who they are yet. And Brooklyn, of course, because we know she's here. Will you be, so Nicki, will you be watching the teens or the masters? Or have you found a way that you're going to be able to sort of dip into both? And is there anyone you've got your eye on? You can't say Brooklyn, because that's cheating, because she's on the show.
Brooklyn might be the only teen athlete I know, and weirdly, like I said, I followed her for years, so it definitely makes me want to watch. I actually didn't realize they were this. When is it? This week? Upcoming week?
Yeah, so we check in. I leave tomorrow, and then we check in Thursday, compete Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
So exciting. So yeah, I'll definitely be tuning in. Masters, I should know this because they're Conquer athletes. But Stu Swanson won last year. I don't know why I'm blanking if he's competing again this year. And then his wife Amy, she's also a savage. And it's at the same time, right?
Yeah, it's the same weekend, same time.
Yeah,
Exciting.
which is a shame, but it's fine. It is what it is. I actually think the best thing I heard is if they had flipped it, which I guess would have been nice next year. But I mean, I'm not even thinking about next year's games at the moment. But like, it would have been nice if you'd done the teens and masters before the games, and then in those moments where we're kind of just waiting for stuff to happen, they could have been showing like highlight clips of the teens and masters.
That's brilliant.
Because as much as it's there and available, you know, if in reality we know it's not going to get the same attention as the games. So that would have been a. I don't. Oh, that's why I asked which one. Okay, hold on. That's why I asked which one I should watch. Is he saying that you're asking if you should watch the teens or the masters? Jake, what are you doing to me? I don't understand what's happening here. I should stop giving him so much attention. Okay. Here's a new question. Has Nicki got a favorite girl WOD? As in one of the girls, I'm assuming, not as in a WOD that's good for girls. I think he means one of the named
All right.
girl WODs.
My coach is going to be embarrassed by this, but I'm going to blame it on how new I am to CrossFit and my memory problem. I can't even like pull those workouts in my head. Even though
good job we've got an OG on the show. She will know them all backwards and forwards. She's probably got her times for all of them as well. So we can pass it on to B. B, have you got a favorite girl workout?
Yeah, I have a lot of favorite workouts. My favorite girl workout is probably Amanda. Ring muscle ups and squat snatches.
Oh, what a surprise. The ring muscle ups make an appearance once again.
I like Diane too, but I like the version with handstand walk and strict handstand push-ups better. Definitely not Grace or Isabel, Jake. Those workouts, Grace and Isabel, oh my gosh, those workouts are so painful.
Isabel is 30
snatches. Yeah.
Yeah, I've just pulled them all up now, so I'll check them for you. Yeah, Isabel's 30 snatches. Grace, no, definitely not. I'm with you on Diane being my favorite, but I will not add the handstand walks. I'm more than happy to just have the hands. And the last time I did Diane was we had a member of our affiliate that was raising money for charity, and he's been doing it for a number of years. So each year it becomes more insane what he does. In fact, once he did like all the girls' workouts, that was one of the things he did. This year he did a 72-hour, like every hour was going to do a different workout, which was absolute madness. And I remember doing Diane at 1 a.m. going in to do it with him. So they'd modified like a lot of the workouts, and they'd done it actually in like a strategic way where sometimes he could do, like, it would be a short workout and maybe would do that at like 11:45 and it would be finished in 10 minutes. And then he could do the next workout at like 12. And then he had maybe kind of a period to sleep beforehand or after. They were being very careful with him, because if it had been up to him, he'd have done like a hero workout every hour. So the box had to really help him get through it. But yeah, I remember doing it at 1 in the morning, and still probably, one of the best performances I'd done on Diane. So I was really happy with it.
You couldn't wake up at that time to do anything.
No, it's perfect for me because I'm small and light, so the handstand push-ups is always kind of one of the things I like. And then I just have a pretty good deadlift for my size as well, so I don't mind. I can manage the weight quite well. So that's sort of one of the few kind of wheelhouse things for me.
The deadlift is something, for some reason, that has troubled me the most. It is my kryptonite from starting.
Oh, really?
So we work on it a shit ton. It's definitely gotten better. But all right, so Karen is one, right? Is that 100 wall balls for time?
150 wall balls.
So I've done that twice now, unbroken, and the second time to a 10-foot target. I would say that's my best one, not my favorite one, because wall ball, like, something I'm like, oof, love doing these, but I'm able to hurt on that one.
Oh, see, so we are polar opposites on these things. I absolutely hate wall balls. Like that's one of the things I mean, I'd rather do thrusters any day of the week than wall balls. Yeah. It's for me, it's I have like a bit. Well, I told you before, I lived in Italy for many years, which of course meant I had a couple of car accidents where people went into like the back of my car or into the side of my car because those guys are crazy, and it messed up my shoulder a little bit. And the thing that aggravates it more than anything else is the wall ball, and I kind of feel it's almost like the catch every time as well. So I always, if I'm doing stuff overhead, I fatigue quite quickly on my left arm, like on this shoulder. But wall balls, it's just more than anything else. It's the one that really gets me. So I do not like them. But I do them.
That same like feeling in the thruster.
No, it's not the same. Yeah, I don't know what it is. It's got to be something about the. Probably I could find a way to do them better, and it wouldn't hurt as much. But they're, I mean, and it's not like I can't do them. It's so painful that I can't do it or something like that. It's just awkward, if that makes sense. So,
Yeah.
So it's manageable, but it's kind of one of the things that I hate the most. But yeah, anyway, that's fine. It's not about me. It's about you guys. So, I'm not going to the games. So I don't need to be able to be good at wall balls. That's fine. Thanks for the question, Jake. That got us on. Grace's lightweights. Eva is the worst girl.
Which one's that?
5 rounds, 800-meter run, 30 kettlebell swings, 30 pull-ups. I don't know if that's the worst. I don't think that's the worst. I personally think so. Worse for him, maybe. But speaking of like the different movements, then what we've been talking about, I was curious before when we were talking about that you've done some like weightlifting competitions, Brooklyn, but you also mentioned you've done some powerlifting competitions. But then, you said you got famous doing the rings. So I'm kind of curious where you feel your strengths lie within CrossFit, because when you had talked about the weightlifting competitions, I'm thinking, so she's going to be maybe, a friend of the barbell. That's what you want to see show up. But then you're like, but it was the gymnastics that really, called to me. So, I mean, I just tell us you're great at everything, and then we can move on. But what is it that?
I would say strength is something I've been working on a lot. It's actually like, I wouldn't say I'm the strongest in the field. I think it really depends. I would say my strengths, like as far as like pure strength goes wise, I'm a lot better at odd objects than the barbell, strength wise.
I have bad news for you.
Yeah.
I'm broken to 10 foot. Get ready to practice, Karen. Oh,
yeah, that's great.
So, Nicki, you might get blocked.
But I think upper body wise, I've always just excelled more so. So I'm working on my legs a lot, but it's almost like my strength has always been in just the harder things, which doesn't make any sense. But it's like anything that's like hard skill movements, I've just always enjoyed more, which I feel like has made my strengths lie there. But just, for winning a national championship, I need to get a lot stronger.
You'll get there. Also, if your dad makes you do that, let me know.
Yeah, you should set up like a Zoom call and do it together.
He's just in there listening to me to like see what I need to work on right now.
Yeah. He's like, she's never opened up like this to me. She doesn't tell me that she needs to work on these things. Interesting. Yeah. He should have sent me some notes beforehand, and I would have been like, so I hear you don't like eating your vegetables. So what's going on with that? No. Actually, there's a question for you then, because I am curious about now that I've made it as a. What's the picture in the background say?
That one, it's just like the family house rule. I don't even know where we got it. I like this one better. That one's like a picture of Kobe Bryant and his last game and like his points and stuff. I don't even know where we got that.
Yeah. I don't like the family rules. I like sports. Yeah. I just found out potatoes are vegetables. Okay. Interesting. I was going to ask though, because obviously being an OG and also your dad's clearly, well, I've seen pictures of your dad. He's a fit individual as well. So, this is, it's obviously in the family, but I'm thinking about, we've talked about like your friends and, kind of growing up and people being like, oh, okay, we understand that you're going to spend hours in the gym. All right. But what about kind of the, choices you're making with regards to how you eat and how you fuel yourself and things like that? Because, kids are kind of classically not the best at eating the right things. Has that always been something you struggled with at all, or have you?
I mean, I love to eat, and I think that it's always been a good thing. Like my dad made me eat like everything growing up, or at least try everything. Like I wasn't allowed to say like, oh, I don't like that if I hadn't tried it or anything. So kind of that I never struggled with. And then as far as eating and fueling goes, I think especially for a lot of young girls, like it's a really good thing that I don't have an attachment to food like that. I know I need to eat to fuel myself, and what I need to eat is very important. And I think it's just I've never really struggled with that. So honestly, like when people ask me, I almost have a hard time answering because I've never experienced that, kind of like what Nicki was saying with like fear at handstands. Like I've never experienced like not wanting to eat for the body image or whatever it is. I've just always wanted to fuel myself so I could perform. So I've never really like dealt with any like problems with that. And I really love food. So
Do you think so?
CrossFit
You're
is-
homeschooled now. Were you always homeschooled?
I went to a private Christian school for like 4 or 5 years just growing up. And then with how much we travel, we switched to homeschool pretty quick. So I've been homeschooled pretty much my whole life.
Yeah, because I wonder if that would have played a part. Like if you'd been surrounded with people that were more obsessed about their image, or were maybe making more comments to you about your image or about things like that, maybe that could have, those ideas could have get kind of implanted. But I think when you I always find it even now, because we surround ourselves with people like at the CrossFit Box, or that we speak to kind of on social media or on these kind of shows. And for me now, it's so normal to see kind of a CrossFit body type as just normal. And then when I encounter people like being criticized or hearing things or stuff like that, I know it happens, but because I experience it so rarely, when I kind of bump into someone I know outside the CrossFit world, and maybe we've got a friend in common that does CrossFit, and they'll maybe make a weird comment about the way they look, and I'm like, oh, really? Like it just sort of, you're not used to it anymore, because it's like, well, this is normal. This is what I expect people to look like. It's absolutely fine. So, I mean, Nicki, you've probably got experience with that. Like, you've had a few more years on the planet than Brooklyn. So maybe you've.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of what you're like talking about right now, I think it helps to like not only Brooklyn being homeschooled, but growing up around everyone in the gym. It's like so much easier to have that influence of like, oh, eating is fuel for what I'm doing. I'm going to eat if that means I'm going to get better at this, especially that has been her whole life since she's been 7. For me, it's interesting. Like I forget sometimes that like not everyone is comfortable or understands this body type because I live in my gym. But like going to the grocery store, or like the last place I lived, it was a 40-story building, and like no one even knew what CrossFit was. And once the summer time comes around, it's like I get so many questions and comments, and I've had people like say rude things to me, not realizing it was rude. That's when it's like a shock, like, oh yeah, like people do face, criticism, and it's like a reminder, like, it could be a harsh world out there. In terms of like food, I could do a whole podcast on just that, of like all the phases I've been through, because I was overweight growing up and I didn't do sport. So I've always, as young as I can remember, like elementary school, I always wanted to lose weight and be lean. And then once I started sport and going to the gym, like wanting to lose weight was on the back burner, and I just wanted to get strong. So,
Which then helps you anyway, like to lose weight.
Yeah.
When you get strong, right? It's sort of, but it's not necessarily the main objective, but the things you need to do to get strong will anyway, help you lose weight, if it's, excess weight, we could say. And obviously, you're not trying to get super skinny because you want to be strong, but it has that sort of effect if you're somebody that was, as you were saying.
For sure. I always tell people at the gym, it's like, if you focus more on the goal of strength or just any kind of goal within the fitness realm, the body is like a byproduct. Like that'll come after and you'll be so happy. But like if you solely just focus on the body, it's like, it's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah. It's good though. Well, it's interesting. Like you have again, you guys are like the absolute opposites, and yet you've sort of found yourself now in the same sort of in this same world, which I find fascinating. Ask her how she feels about Delta from going from teen games. Oh, Delta going from teen games to 1834. It seems he's writing and then writing more. Okay, hold on. Let's break down what Grant Keeping It Real is saying here. Ask her how she feels about Delta from going from teen games in 1834. It seems to take Sprague a while. Ty Jenkins had a drop off. Dallin seemed to be quick. Could be wrong. Also, sorry. Yeah, you should be sorry. But there seems also to be quite a difference between the guys breaking in and the girls, because generally it's been easier for girls to make it from the teen division. I call it teen. I love that when you look it up on the games website, it always says girls. Like it makes it everyone like. And girls doesn't sound as bad as boys, which makes them really sound like they're 5. But then they go from the boys to the men's division. But like there's quite a few. And the girls that have gone from the teen to the main elite. I don't know what you call it. Like have done incredibly well. Like Haley Adams, Emma Lawson, so on. Rebecca, who's made it as well. Obviously, next year we'll be talking about Brooklyn Sittner, but I jump ahead of myself at the moment. On that note, though, have you got any concern when you've seen like there's a lot of talk of like burnout of people kind of struggling when they made that transition across? Is that something that you're ever concerned about, or is it just you love it so much that you're not worried about that?
I mean, honestly, like with the people that took a year off or still are taking time, I don't understand it. If I'm being completely honest, I don't understand. I don't think not saying that they don't love it, but I don't think that if you truly love something, you can get burnt out from it. I mean, I'm never like, oh man, I'm so sick of petting dogs. I just wish that I could stop seeing dogs everywhere. And I love dogs. Like I'm never thought that, and I've never felt that way with CrossFit, just because I think it helps that it's always changing. I'm never doing the same thing, and I think that really helps. Like, yeah, if you go in and you do the same thing every single day, I feel like that could get to the point of burnout or whatever. But for me, I've never had those moments, and I don't feel like myself if I'm not working towards a goal. So I think that's just something that's always helped me.
Do you think as well, maybe your training environment has a play on that? Because I understand as well that social media is like a highlight reel, and maybe we're not seeing everything you're doing and everything you're going through, and surely there's things happening that you're not showing on social media. But when you do look at like what you're doing, as you said, you travel a lot, you get to see a lot of different people, you seem to be having a lot of fun as well within CrossFit. It's not just, it's hard work as well. Clearly you're training hard, but you're putting yourself in environments where training hard can also be fun, if that makes sense.
Yeah, my training environment is awesome. I get to hang out with my friends all day, basically. We train and we joke and we laugh and make fun of each other, and it's a really great environment. And I look forward to getting to the gym to see the people I get to train with or something like that. So it's never like, oh, I have to go to the gym and sit by myself and train. And no, I get to go see my friends, or I get to go train and have fun, and every day is like a new experience. So I think definitely like being happy where I'm at helps a lot with that.
Yeah, nice. I got to address a few things again in the comment. So I quite like Jake's take here, because he was talking about how females mature earlier physically than males. So he's like a proponent of males having another kind of college age group before moving to individual. And then Jessica has highlighted the fact that 18 to 34 is called individuals, which I understand as well. But also the teens are competing as individuals and the masters are competing as individuals. And it feels, and we have competitions where you have masters pairs, masters teams. So I just feel a little bit like if I just say individual, it feels disrespectful. Not as much as when I say, oh, you move from like the teens to the elite. And then if you're a master, you're not elite anymore. Like that is the one that I really feel bad about saying. But anyway. God, Jon is swayed. I'm back with Jason. I don't know what I've convinced him on this time. And and Jon Clark just arriving. What have I missed?
A lot.
So much. We've predicted Brooklyn to win the 2026 CrossFit Games. That was something that we did a deep dive on exactly why that was the case. And Nicki's podiuming as well in 2026. So yeah, it's been a lot, Jon. But don't worry, you can just go back and listen to it all. Speaking of, here's another question that's completely unrelated. But as I have two wonderful female athletes on, I thought I'd get your take on this. Do you think Tia needs to continue until she's beaten, or can she retire?
I mean, should she continue until she's beaten? I feel like if I was her, I wouldn't wait until I get beaten to be like, all right, I'm retiring. As a fan, I hope she doesn't quit now. Like, I hope we all get the chance to go up against her. I would love to see her continue in the sport.
Yeah. Your thoughts, B?
I
know you want the opportunity to beat her, so you need her to stick around that long. But
that's a really good question. I think that she doesn't owe it to anybody to compete until she's beaten. She's proved how amazing she is and that she's the best over and over again. I think she's amazing to watch, and it's so cool to watch somebody so confident in winning. But I'd like to see her go again. 8 sounds better than 7.
9 sounds better than 8.
Yeah.
And Jake reckons she needs to do 10. So that's now it's kind of twofold. The question or my reasoning behind it is I saw an interview just pop up on Instagram when I was doom scrolling, and it was Ronda Rousey that was undefeated in UFC, and then she was saying she wouldn't retire. And I don't know if this happened in the end, if she did get beaten or not, because I don't follow it. But at this point, they were saying why don't you just retire? And she was saying, well, it would be like a disservice to the other people if no one ever got to beat me.
That's
kind of like the next champ. And I look at the men's field, and I feel like we haven't been satisfied with the men's champion for years now. Because even Matt Fraser, who won so many, there was constantly the debate, he never beat Rich. Who would win, Matt or Rich? Who would win, Matt? And I think people firmly had their opinions on who would win. Then Matt retires, Justin wins, and it's like, well, Justin only won because Matt's not there. Then he wins again, so we're like, okay, well, maybe Justin does have merit. Then Adler wins, but only because Roman hurt himself, and if Roman hadn't hurt his leg, then Justin might not. Then Adler wouldn't have won. And then this year, Sprague's won, but it's like this year it's kind of chaos, and what do we really count? I just feel like we're never happy with the champ, and so even when and Laura won because Tia wasn't there. Tia's back; she's won again. I just feel like we need a decisive victory. Otherwise, no matter who wins, Tia would have won if she'd been there. So that's my. I mean, again, I don't want to put more pressure on you, Brooklyn, but I kind of feel like it's all on you at this point. So
don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure Ronda Rousey lost and then was hospitalized afterwards, because she was mentally not okay with the defeat. I'm 75-25 on that.
Yeah, so you're saying we should let Tia retire for her mental health?
Not saying that she'll ever lose though if she decided not to retire. But yeah.
Yeah. I want to ask you the first half of this question, and I don't like Jake's answer to it. He asks if you have any guilty pleasures. Do you have any? His is watching ear cleaning videos. So I'm not saying you need to watch those kind of videos, but how do you? I guess let's rephrase this as to you're both very dedicated to your training, very dedicated to the sport that you're doing. How do you unwind? How do you disconnect from CrossFit for a few moments? Anything you do that isn't watching ear cleaning videos?
Brooke, do you want to take that one first, or?
Yeah, I can go. So especially during the summer and during games training, it's been so amazing. My grandpa owns a boat, and we have a 50-mile canyon lake that we go up to every Sunday. But we went yesterday instead because it just worked better with training. And then I had this, but it's been my rest day every week. And it's just amazing. There's no service. You go out there and you're just on the lake. We have a good time. It honestly makes training that much better just because I have that day to just reset and get ready for the new week. And it's been such a game changer during games training to be like, just relax, enjoy this.
Just get through this day of training because tomorrow's the lake. That's it. That's the nice. Yeah. I mean, actually, that lake is where I've seen pictures of your dad. So that's how I know he's practicing what he preaches. He's not just making you train. He's clearly training himself as well. So Jake did ask for pictures earlier. I've pulled one up, but I'm not sharing it. I was like, I wonder if the picture. Oh, there he is. You've got Instagram. Go and do your own dirty work. I'm not doing it for you. Nicki, are you off to the lake as well?
I am not, because I live in New York and there are no lakes nearby, although I do love the boat life. So hopefully that's like a one-day future for me. But I would say I unwind with comedy. So I'm like a big nerd when it comes to stand-up comedians, like to the point where I know too much about the intricacies of their lives. I just listen to like everyone's podcasts, and it just like they just fascinate me. So if I'm not like watching stand-up comedy, I'm listening to their podcasts, and I do that every day.
Okay, well this is good. So who are some of your faves? Come on.
All right, Bert Kreischer is definitely a fave.
The Machine. Okay.
Yeah, Taylor Thompson. I saw her live opening up for Whitney Cummings, and as the opener, she blew out Whitney Cummings, so she's definitely up there. I have Sebastian Maniscalco coming up next month. I love. He's a great stand-up comedian, but his podcast is even better because he's like this Italian American who's just like very relatable to.
What's his podcast called? I've watched like all the stand-up specials of his that have gone like on Netflix because again, he is American. He's like you, right? But I've a lot of it is coming. 10 years in Italy, I get a lot of the kind of the Italian culture references. I really enjoyed that. Watched that with my wife. So what's his podcast called? I will look that up.
Yeah, his podcast is the Pete and Sebastian Show. He does it with another comedian, Pete Correelli, and they like obviously it's relatable to the Italian culture, but also just like to being I'm not a parent, but being a parent. They talk a lot about like their kids' lives, and it's just a very funny podcast. It's just great banter.
Okay, adding it to my playlist. So there we go. Okay, good. All right. That's good. Jon is also claiming to be a comedy buff. So let's see. Let's give it. Okay. My guilty pleasure is staying up until 2 a.m., calling in sick, eating pizza for breakfast, and watching Happy Gilmore while huffing late. Okay. Interesting. Jon. Better not name any women, as there isn't any funny women. Getting ready to. Getting ready to be. It's annoying. He's a moderator. Otherwise, someone would block him. That's what's going on there.
Fine. Look up Taylor Tomlinson.
Yeah. You hear that, Jon? You're a comedy buff apparently, and yet you don't know these names. Gervais. Okay. That's why I am how I am, Jason. All right. Good. Okay. Wonderful. Well, I think that's been good. I've really enjoyed the chat. I've learned a lot about you both. I'm, all the best, B, for this upcoming event. It's going to be amazing.
Thank you.
I hope that I hope that once it's all said and done and you're out of like extreme competitor mode, you get an opportunity to have a little chat with some of those teens, maybe not the ones that will be at the in the individual with you next year, maybe just the year below or below that, but it just inspire them a little bit, just share some of your wisdom. Be like, don't you know who I am? And if they say no, you go, well, muscle ups, do muscle ups mean anything to you? They made me famous. And then, put that on them. Nicki, are you making another run as an individual next year?
Yeah, that's the goal from here on out.
Sorry, I'm getting distracted by comments still coming. I'm going to ignore them all from now on. Okay, very good. You know, Syndicate looked very impressive. Those dumbbells were enormous that you had to lug around at the end. So well done. There's some great pics of you from that event as well. So,
Thank you.
Nicki, what's your favorite day of the year? There's a final question.
My favorite day of the year? That's the question?
That's so okay. Right, hold on. So
What's your favorite?
Jake has asked, what's your favorite day of the year? And then Grant is correcting Jake's spelling, but Jake is over in this part of the world, so he's spelling it that way. So Grant, you can take your US spelling away with you. Nicki, you can think about that. And oh dear, hold on.
I have to get back to you on that. I'm not sure I have a favorite, but maybe if I think hard enough.
Yeah. And Jon is saying, good luck for the future. Don't suffer too much guilt on those rest days at the lake, Brooklyn. They're needed. I don't think she's suffering any guilt at the lake. I think she's looking at it as right. We're discussing spelling in the comments now. That tells me it's time to move on and to wrap this all up. Thank you very much, Brooklyn. Thank you, Nicki. I've appreciated your presence from both of you. Thank you everyone in the comments as well, because you have made it enjoyable. There's been some really good questions and some other questions that maybe weren't as good, maybe a bit bizarre, who knows. I will be back on Tuesday and Wednesday at sort of similar time to this, but again, check my Instagram. I'll put up links as and when start going live. And also maybe later today I'll be putting up a video about the whole PFAA demands and whether or not they're in a position to make demands and how people feel about that and how it's just another thing to split the community. So I recorded that earlier and then the mic had died halfway through, so only half of it had sound. So once I hang up here, I'm going to record that video, edit, upload. So the time it takes is the time it takes, everyone. But that will be going up very soon as well on my YouTube. So thank you again, Nicki. Thank you again, Brooklyn, and all the best at Pit. And thank you everyone in the comments. And I think that is everything from us.
Thank you.